Welcome to Neuro Revolution. The world was not designed for us, so we are creating a new one. Hear the stories of neurodivergent entrepreneurs, creatives, and changemakers. The rebel minds changing the world.
Welcome back to Neuro Revolution. Today I welcome Sujan Noreiga, a neurodivergent business strategist and Notion magician, helping neurodivergent entrepreneurs create systems that work with their unique brains. So welcome, Sujan.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Jenny.
I'm so excited.
Yes. Same. I love yapping about this stuff. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Well, hey, that's our whole hour. Would you tell us? I always like to ask people at the very beginning, about your journey to this work, because this is unique work, a unique work with. And so, would you tell us a bit about your journey that led you to now supporting neurodivergent and chronically ill entrepreneurs?
So I think I started business as most people do. They just get fed up with corporate. But for as long as I could remember, I was a bit strange, a bit weird, a bit sensitive, a bit not necessarily fighting back against authority, but I always would push back against my bosses and stuff. This sounds really dumb, why are we doing this? And I figured I was neurodivergent in some way, shape or form, but no one was taking me seriously. So when I started my business, it was as a virtual assistant, and as I went through this journey of quitting this job that meant a lot to me, and my idea of my worth and my productivity, I started on this personal development journey of okay, my work is not part of who I am as a person morally. And why does working in this kind of traditional way rub me the wrong way so much? And TikTok being TikTok, the For You page, I love it, but also damn. I got some really targeted videos about people with ADHD and autism, and a lot of their symptoms felt very real to me. So as I started learning more about Notion and moving from virtual assistants to Notion coaching and consulting, I was just the way I do Notion is even different from the way the average consultant does Notion. They are not thinking of productivity for a brain like mine. They are not thinking of setups for a brain like mine. And then I was just hey, neurodivergent people, those are clearly my people. The way that we get organized, the way that we are productive is different. It just is different. It's not the same as the tech bro, white, cis heterosexual bullshit that you see online.
Yeah.
So I've just been leaning more and more into that. Long story short, I've just been leaning more and more into that, and I found, especially online, I find a lot of people are trying Notion, and it's not working for them specifically because they have ADHD, or specifically their brains just can't get it. And I'm hey, are you even thinking about what you need in these situations when you crack open a tool like this? Usually not, because we don't see ourselves as right in any way, shape or form. Mm-hmm. Everything that we do, everything that we are is wrong by societal standards, and we have to squeeze into the box that we were given and not try to accommodate ourselves in that way. So that's where I'm at with basically all of my work. Let us accommodate ourselves, please, for the love of God. We do better work that way. We feel better mentally, physically, emotionally that way. So productivity is not just one way. One person can be productive in one way, another person can be productive in a different way, and the same person can be productive. There's a spectrum of productivity and how people get productive, just like there's a spectrum of neurodivergence. And within one person, you can have a really good productive day, and another day it's I need bare minimum to be productive. So yeah, I'm just focusing on these people of like, hey, let us accommodate ourselves. Let's be nicer to ourselves. Give ourselves grace. Society sucks. The world sucks. So let's not lean into it. Let's not lean into it. It hasn't been helping you so far. So, let's do it. Let's do it differently.
What a loving approach. Like, I keep hearing you say, like, let's accommodate ourselves. And you're really inviting people into this from such like an empowered place and self-accepting place. Or even
Yes.
self-celebrating. I kind of like celebrating.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think it was just my own journey of like, I have grown up in a Catholic household, as a queer person, as someone who is unconventional, is different, and I'm too much, and too sensitive, and too this, and that shame didn't really make me feel loved, cared for, supported. What does make me feel loved, cared for, supported? You know, Slowing down, taking time for myself, listening, you know, all these sort of things where I think we have gotten used to as a society this kind of like shame, and people talk about pain points, and I'm like, I don't like it. Like, yes, those are sore points for people, but like, if we get curious about the opposite side of that, I find that people are more receptive to where you want to take them, where you want to guide them. And I think for me too, it's an ethical thing too. I don't want to shame you into working with me. We are not going to work together well if I have to shame you into working with me, if you are not confident in what you're doing, if I also feel like I'm helping you, but also like when the training wheels are off, like, bye.
Yeah.
I don't want you clinging on to me. I want you to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. And I'm sending you off to college. Bye. And I'm going on to the next person. And the only way to do that is to help that person see that they are competent, and they have the knowledge, and they have the access, and they have it within themselves. They don't have to go outside externally, unless, of course, I mean, not everything we can do ourselves, but I want them to be able to feel confident that when they're reaching out, it's for help or assistance. It's not because they need that support in a codependent way. That's the word I'm looking for. And in that codependent way. I'm not no codependency, please. So that's how I do talk to my clients. That's even how I interact with people online. I'm like, here are resources. Here's how I can help you. You can do this yourself, but if not, here are people who can help you, can support you, or it's kind of like therapizing in a way. And I don't have any qualifications to do that, but it's kind of natural for me to go there, and I believe it's mostly because of my own experience with shame or being put down. Like, that hasn't helped me. I don't want to do that to anybody else. So
I really appreciate when we talked first, when I was getting to know you a little bit, like this learning about your like sort of a holistic approach. Like, it's not just, oh, here's how to use Notion. Bye. Like, you're really taking into account the whole person that's coming to you that you're aware has had these really disempowering messages placed upon them for a lifetime. And you're like, let's fill this all in, because like part of my work is to help you like access and understand your capacities, and you can do this, and you can be confident in this tool that I'm gonna like really show you how to sort of uniquely create for what it is that you need.
Yeah, and I mean, Notion is so vast. Like, when people talk about using the full potential of Notion, I'm like, not possible. One person using the full potential of Notion, it's not possible. It's too big. It's too they're different levels. So when someone and again, this comes from like not being enough. That like, hey, I know I'm not using Notion to its full potential, and it's just because I suck. And it's like, no, babes. What do you want Notion to do? Yeah, like I am a Notion consultant. I have been using Notion for 4 years, and there are still things that I don't know about Notion. I know consultants, who are my friends, my peers, who are learning stuff from me on how to use Notion and develop Notion in different ways. Like that you're not gonna know everything. And they're always releasing some new shit. Like, please, who can keep up? Nobody. Nobody. I as a Notion consultant can't keep up. So you as a regular layperson, definitely you are not going to be using the full width and breadth of Notion's capabilities. Not possible.
Well, and what I get is that it sounds like you don't necessarily have to, right? Because it's such
Yeah,
a
no.
tool that you can
Yeah.
custom. Like, here's what I need.
Exactly.
And maybe I should have you like really describe what Notion is in case someone doesn't know.
Yeah, and it's so hard to describe it. It is a one all-in-one. Well, not really an all-in-one. It's a collaborative workspace, so you can use Notion for a lot of different things. You'll find Notion is popular with like students or companies, project management type things, for just keeping track of stuff in their space, and again collaborating through Notion itself. So if you think of what is that, Microsoft Teams and Access and all these things, it's like a mix of some of those things. So like if you were to go into a company, it will have Notion and maybe like some other video recording meeting thing. So like everything, documents, files, images, whole nine. Databases of stuff, like it really is so big. It really is so big. The way I use it and the way I started using it was as a skin flare tracker. I have seborrheic dermatitis and I didn't want to download yet another app on my phone. And I found Notion and I built a tracker in there, and now my personal Notion space has grown to a meal tracker. I do a lot of my work in Notion with like meeting notes, ideating, brain dumping, journaling. I'm currently holding my client applications in there as well, and my client and like leads. So I don't have to go looking. People will say it's a CRM, but not quite a CRM, but like I have you in there generally. I have you in there, and then like your website and so things that are attached to you. I have in there. I also track my money in Notion. It's really like Excel, Google Docs, and a bunch of other Asana and whoever, just
all into one.
Notion. Notion. So I loved it for its flexibility. You start with literally a blank page in Notion, and I think for people with like decision fatigue and stuff, that can be scary. So then they go looking for templates, but templates are built by people who know what they're doing, and then the template is confusing because you're not really sure what you even want this template to do for you, and you don't know how to use Notion. And then it's like a spiral. I suck. I can't figure this out. Notion sucks. And so on. So Notion is really just a tool through which I help people sit with themselves and acknowledge their needs and their wants. So when people come to me with a Notion build, or they need help with their Notion, they're like, this is just not working. And I'm like, why isn't it working? I'm a questions bitch. I ask so many questions. I'm always like, why? And why do you do it like that? And why does this work and not that doesn't work? You know what I mean? I'm just kind of like asking and trying to get into their brain and see how they think, not only about the workspace itself and how they like make things flow in their workspace, but also to like how they think about themselves and their ideas towards being organized. Because most people, they come to me in Notion and they suck at getting organized. They will tell me straight up, it looks like shit. I don't know what I'm doing. I really am bad at getting organized. And I'm like, okay, that might be true, but you're not being like curious about the whys here. You know what I mean? Like, why doesn't this look like how you wanted to? Why isn't this working how you wanted to? And then from there, I use my own knowledge, of course, to show them how to create what they need to. So yeah, it's yeah. So it is a holistic approach. It is, it's not just building them something that works. It's building them something that works specifically tailored to them. And again, everyone's productivity is different. The way people work is different. Notion can do so many things that people are building templates for their own workflow, which is not your workflow. So
Right.
like if you were to download a template, it's it's not gonna work. And then I always remind my clients too that even though you do get a template, you still have to edit it. You still, like, it's not gonna work out of the box. You still have to edit it, and adjust it. Even if it's not like building it from scratch again, from that empty page, you still have to kind of like tweak it to suit your workflow. Go ahead.
We start with curiosity as such a powerful tool to cut into like the criticism or like the overwhelming feeling of looking at a new thing, like a platform, because it sounds like if you look at it, it can look, especially upon first arriving to Notion, like this looks really complicated, and maybe I'll just not do it. But I see you saying that it's so powerful that if customized, like you get it to work for you, then it could be really, really helpful and like making a lot of other things easier in everything that you have to.
Yes.
And so you're like, okay, if we can maybe get curious instead of critical toward ourselves once we look at this, and also because you're there to help, because you have the expertise. So I guess, like really approach it.
Yeah, I generally, things usually don't happen in a vacuum. So there's always a reason for something happening. And you can go as small as, my ring light isn't turning on. Why? Did I plug it in correctly? Let's check and see. We can go real big to like capitalism and shit. You know what I mean? Why are people poor? Shit is expensive. So, there's always to me that why? How did we get here? And the other question that I ask my clients is, from here, where do you want to go? I think that is also important for them to understand and think about. And it usually roots out that kind of like, well, ideally, or it should look like, and I'm like, what do you want it to look like, babes? Use your imagination. Let's not, let's figure it out. And I'm always that kind of like, let's try and see. I'm not quite sure if Notion does that. Let me see. Da, 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 da. And then I figure it out. Or maybe it doesn't work, and I find out a workaround. You know what I mean? Or I talk to my community, because some people know more than me. But I will always say that. But yeah, so things don't usually happen in a vacuum. There's always a reason why people have ended up in the place that they are, with their organization, with their belief system, with whatever it is. And I'm always curious about the why, because the why means I have to do something different moving forward so that they don't remain in that place. So if I have a client who has tried like a million apps before because they don't give it more than 2 weeks, I'm gonna be like, yeah, let's try this for a month, please, for the love of God. You know, let's not get hasty. Let's start small. Let's not make it overwhelming. You know what I mean? Let's not go crazy. Bite-sized pieces. You know, let's build a habit of opening it so that we can look at it every day and get comfortable. So it's not overwhelming. And then that way they can actually start using the freaking tool for longer than 2 weeks.
Yeah. The cool is that it's like you seem to have discovered or be willing to work with the person as to like why maybe there's that pattern. Because if they were approaching it by themselves and it is really overwhelming, I guess it makes sense. Like you just kind of you keep trying to find something that's going to work, but like you're saying, you know, the expectation that you're going to just like roll into Notion with the template somebody else created for themselves and have it work, you know, doesn't make sense because you do have unique. And so it's really coming into like being okay with that. And then sort of working the process of like making that happen. How have you found with folks like as you maybe challenge them to sort of stay with it a little bit longer, customize it a little bit more? What like have you found folks being open to that because they have someone supporting them?
Oh yeah, I think just because um our media is very Americanized, which is very individualistic. So neurodivergent folks tend to want to be able to do things by themselves. So if they can't do it by themselves, then they suck. And asking for help is always usually very hard, especially if you're like assigned female at birth or socialized as a girl, woman. Reaching out for help isn't usually, you know, smiled upon. You know, so when they get to me, they're in a space of like, okay, fuck it, I need help. You know what I mean? Fine. This is like, I fucking need it. And they're usually very open. I can't remember the last time I've had a client that was kind of like, most of them are usually unsure. And again, because this is something new to them, it's unfamiliar. So there is that uncertainty, which I accept and I acknowledge. But they're not usually like, yeah, I'm not doing that. Unless it's something that, you know, I mean, I haven't gotten a client who like really pushes back at me in a very vigorous manner. You know, I do have some clients who like, I mean, they express their opinions, which isn't the same thing as like pushing back or being like defensive. But again, I'm always like, hey, why is this coming up in this way for you? You know, like, why does that sound like a bad idea to you? Let me find out more. Because then now I can optimize my suggestions as well.
Yeah. That's really, really powerful approach, I feel. You're basically a coach as well, it sounds like.
Yes.
Something a lot of done before, but just without the Notion part. But like,
yeah.
But I also love too because you have a background in biology, and so you bring that understanding of like how the nervous system works, how like our bodies are kind of set up to like not want change until we feel safe for that. And then also, I know you mentioned you bring sort of like a knowledge around human design, which is a whole other thing too. Like,
it's a whole other thing. So I started experimenting with human design, and I was just curious about the people around me. Again, I'm nosy, and I thought about, as a part of my experimentation, finding out more about the human designs of my clients and seeing how I can help them using their designs. So human design is some people talk about it as like a personality test, and I wouldn't quite say it's that. It's a modality of knowing of self that includes astrology, the I Ching, there's a whole like a bunch of stuff like smushed into human design. And I focus more on folks energy type and the way that they make decisions, so their strategy and authority. And you will always find that people are usually going against their aura type and their strategy or authority because it's more socially acceptable to not be themselves. Again, just that it's better to not be you. You know what I mean? So I usually, that also helps with my, like, the way I ask questions and stuff too. Knowing more about their human design, and with biology, I'm just interested in anatomy and physiology, animal anatomy and physiology, as well as psychology. And I think, again, for me, myself, I was always curious as to why did I have a problem and nobody else has a problem? Like, what is wrong with me? And of course, several years of therapy also. So yeah, I bring all of that in to just, get a real idea of this person's how the way that they work, their fears, motivations, what they could be, ways they could be making themselves smaller to seem more acceptable to other people. And just, again, empowering them to, like, hey, if you want a simple ass workspace, let's create a simple ass workspace. Cool. No big deal. It doesn't have to be complicated. Let's do that. And that's why I always get like, we can just do that? And I'm like, yes, we can just not do crazy. We can literally just do simple. It's fine.
I feel like this connects so well to, like, a sense of helping people, like, give themselves permission just to be be themselves and do it the way they want to. Because it sounds like both with, like, the messages you receive as neurodivergent folks, but also, as you're saying, with, like, the human design aspect, where you realize that often they're sort of pushing against just how they
Yeah.
I guess it makes sense if they're also neurodivergent. But
yes. So a lot of my work is really just about maybe not quite acceptance of where someone is, because not everyone is ready to accept, but for the bare minimum, acknowledging. And, hey, this is where I am now. Let's move forward. At the very least, you may not accept that this is where you are. Some people feel resentment, sadness, frustration, guilt, but let's acknowledge that this is where you are. And once we acknowledge that, we can move forward. And that's really kind of like the core of a lot of my work with clients. Like, you have to acknowledge that this is where you are now, so that we can do something different, so that you can no longer be here, because you've already decided that this sucks, whatever this is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like you help them work with where they're right now. Whether they're like, okay, I accept this, I'm moving on. We can move into that, or those feelings, because I know even in previous, like, episodes I've talked with folks around about, like, the experience of like, for example, if you're, like, a late discovered neurodivergent, there's that sort of process of, like, this is powerful to realize, but also there can be grief and other sadness and, like, all the things as you process, like, what is that? What does that mean now that I'm realizing this later?
Yeah.
Maybe in the same way. It's maybe part of, like, how they're processing, like, this actually is who I am. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a comfortable, like, experience of, like, coming to that, especially with the messages that were given.
Yeah, it's not really about, like, radical acceptance at this point. And I mean, maybe it is radical acceptance, and I'm just calling it acknowledgement. We just have to say that this thing exists. This happened, and either it sucks or you're happy with it. And if it sucks, you have to acknowledge so that you can do something different to change it. And I think that has also been my own personal experience. Just like, ugh, this sucks. I'm literally right now ending my my one my one-on-one sessions because they suck for me. I'm not enjoying them, and it sucks to acknowledge that they suck, because if I kill them, where am I making my money? But I know that it sucks, and I know that I have to move them out of the way to create space to make something else that works better for me and is more supportive for me. Of course, there's some stuff that just generally sucks and can't do too much about it, but if we can limit our own suffering, that'd be great.
Yeah, because it opens up the capacity for you to help people with more of your energy. Not
Yes.
because when we will touch on what you moved to, which sounds like it's
Yeah.
more of a membership community, the
Yes.
commune, so like, but I so appreciate you like sharing in a very like vulnerable way, like the literal experience for yourself too, around like I also go through this where I come up against
Yeah.
I realize this isn't working in my business also.
Yeah.
And then I choose to acknowledge that or receive that or something, and then that helps me to actually explore a different route.
Yeah. It is hard again, because this is something that I've one felt like I should be doing. You have one-on-ones, you consult with people, and you have one-on-ones with clients, and that's kind of like how you do business. And I do love it. It just takes so much out of me. And I have very good experiences with one-on-ones. I really do love doing them, and maybe in the future I could open them out in a limited capacity. But right now I don't have the energy to see people one-on-one, and that sucks. It really does suck. So I am uncertain about the future, but I know that I'll figure it out because I am competent. I know what I'm doing. I can figure it out. And that's the same thing that I bring to my clients and my members in the commune. So I built this membership because one-on-one consulting is expensive.
Yeah, it was actually accessible for you and your clients. you know,
Exactly. Exactly. So, and it's also like a teaser into working with me, instead of like dropping a couple $100 and then being like disappointed, or you know um being unsure for several weeks or months of if you want to work with me. So this is a way to be a little more accessible to people, but also for me to reach more people um without doing the work of several one-on-ones. So I built this community for neurodivergent, chronically ill entrepreneurs who are struggling with their self-worth and productivity as they build their business. So these are like the beginners, they're still starting out, maybe they're like a year or two in, and they're just struggling because what should I be doing? So it's a way to access that one-on-one consulting without spending several $100s that they obviously don't have in the beginning. And like our last office hours, I had a couple of members ask me about, showing up online. Because it's hard for them, so it's, while I'm nervous about retiring my one-on-ones, I'm also very excited about this community as well, to be in close contact with people, with more people more often, without being on live calls more often. So there's a monthly office hours. I help with anything business related during the office hours, or tech related. Every other month is a co-working call So it's honestly not even co-working. It's just come do stuff. Pretend to do stuff while y'all are networking and talking. um, and then I have a Discord server for anybody who feels called to just have a little more access to me in between calls. So I had one of my members this week. They got inspired to build an entire Notion dashboard for their client. Crazy girl. And I give them some tips and some pointers, like, hey, here's how you can edit this, that, the next, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna ask me for some help at the office hours next week on how to make it a little more beautiful. And yeah, so I think it's important for me, my process, to share my personal experiences for my clients, because they see me as someone who is competent, confident, knows her shit, is an authority, but that didn't come without a measure of work, a measure of labor. It's it's natural now because I worked at it, if that makes sense. Like, maybe like 10 years ago, I would not be sitting. I had social anxiety. Like, I would not be sitting on this podcast talking to you right now 10 years ago. What are you talking about? No, I don't want to speak. But it's something that I've worked at because I realized that where I wasn't comfortable. It wasn't really where I wanted to be, and moving to do something different was scary, but it couldn't have been scarier than whatever this is right now. This sucks.
Staying
working. Yeah, staying here sucks. It can't suck more than, what is unknown. And the only way to know is to go into the unknown. You have to find out. You know what I mean? And you have to know, you just have to find out. You just have to go into the unknown and find out. And then you get more information to make more informed decisions and feel more comfortable and confident and competent, and so I'm usually just giving my clients that confidence to just ask why and find out sometimes.
I love that way you described it, as going into the unknown, because it is what it is, and it also, like, can be scary, sometimes. But that moment that you were describing, I feel like I've experienced at different times in my life, where it was like the thing that's occurring is more painful than like finding out what something else could be. And sometimes we have to hit that, and that's not pleasant, but sometimes when we're there, we can make a different choice. But it still takes courage. Like, even if you're between like two things that feel really uncomfortable, it still takes, I think.
It does, and I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to like know everything and like make good decisions the first time around, but like, how did you know that the stovetop was hot if you didn't burn yourself? You know what I mean? Like, it just happens that way sometimes. Your first try is gonna suck. I always tell my clients the first pancake is always ugly. There is never a beautiful first pancake. First pancake is always ugly. Is it gonna taste good? Yeah, but he's kind of ugly. But after that, after you try again and you adjust the heat, you adjust how much grease is in the pan, you adjust certain things, you're gonna come out with a pretty decent pancake, So I really try to empower my clients to try to make an effort. It's gonna suck, probably, but staying where you are is probably gonna suck more by a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that I add into my work is that curiosity, that experimentation and like play. We take ourselves too seriously. We take our organization a little too seriously. Like nobody's gonna fucking die if we like, you know, don't send this email out tomorrow. Well, we disappoint some people probably, but also nobody's gonna die. We're not working in the ER here. Um, and even at that, doctors make mistakes all the time. You know, it's just a thing. It's just a thing. We have to accept it. Well, not accept it, acknowledge that it exists. Okay, and then make movements to either mitigate or just, you know, say fuck it and accept it. There have been many times that I've made mistakes. There have been many times I've made oopsies, corrected them, sure, felt like shit, sure, but you know, you try again and do something different the next time. You know what I mean? I try to see it again as an experiment. You have a hypothesis, you have all your tools, your measurements, everything, it doesn't work. You can literally change the fucking hypothesis. You can change literally anything in that experiment. Anything. Any variable, any method, you can even change the fucking hypothesis. Change it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Because what, isn't it? Like, hypothesis is an educated guess.
Exactly.
That's what's going to happen. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. If the result doesn't support your hypothesis, you can change the hypothesis.
This is such a really cool way of looking at it. It's like, while you were talking about how anything, any variable can be changed, I almost saw it like visually. And just like how malleable that can be when you're able to take that approach. You know, but I'm curious for you, like, because you touched on a little bit, like, your journey of getting to the place where now, like, this seems like it's within you, like you've embodied this way of being curious and like flexible in how you approach something and really self-compassionate. What was there, like, a moment that helped you to, like, or maybe not a moment, but like was there a time period that really helped you to move in that direction, or has this like just how you approach things? Or
I went on antidepressants.
okay.
I'm gonna be honest. I had a really rough time at the end of 2023. Again, mistakes were made. I felt like shit. I actually went to the psychiatric hospital here and I was like, hey guys, I don't feel good. I'm not gonna hurt myself or anyone else, I don't think. But like, I feel really bad. Please help me. And that was also where I got more of a confirmation of being neurodivergent, specifically autistic. I'm not formally diagnosed, but like I had to give a history. My mother was there as a guardian, you know, and she gave some history that I completely forgot, and I was like, that sounds autistic as fuck. And I got on medication and stepped away from business for a while, maybe like 3-4 months, and just literally built it back from the ground up. It was just like, this is not what I want to do. This is not where I want to be. Like, this sucks. And I'm really grateful that you said that, because some days I don't feel like I know what the fuck I'm doing. I don't have very much self-compassion for myself. But having being medicated really helps. Acknowledging and being very honest of where I was with my partner and my friends and my family also really helped. Because if I pretended to be strong for some more time, I probably would have just like ran into the bush and never come back out. But I spoke to my family and was like, hey, I feel real bad. They all came with me. It was my mom, my brother-in-law, and my sister. they all took me to the hospital, and they have been really not quite understanding, but they in themselves have also acknowledged that, okay, this is something that Sujan goes through. This is something that really affects her, and having people to support me in like my real life has also really helped. I feel I feel like if I do mess up, it's not gonna be the end of the world, you know. The bank isn't gonna take my house. Like, things will figure itself out. I definitely don't feel like a complete and utter failure anymore. Um, I don't, you know, I feel I do still have those bouts of, like, you know, depression, things suck. But I actually told a friend recently, it's like, I haven't had negative self talk in months. I really, like, I haven't had it in a long time. Obviously, going to therapy also helps. I catch myself in those moments and literally say the opposite thing, or again be compassionate with myself, saying, "What the fuck are you doing that?" It's like, no, you made a mistake. Let's try that again. You know what I mean? Being softer with myself, and that also leans into, like, with my clients, because I can't really tell them to be kind and soft with themselves, and then I'm not doing that shit. That's hypocritical.
I'm so glad that you had that support that was able to come in, you know? And really, really appreciate your vulnerability and willingness to share, because that's real. Like, we hit these things and then we don't feel like we can talk about it or, like, be real human beings.
Yes.
You know? And I feel like being able to bring that to your clients as well, being like, hey, like, nothing you say is gonna, you know, surprise me or whatever. Like we're here as just our authentic selves. It's kind of what I'm gathering. Like, that's how I feel when I'm talking to police right now. So, like, I assume, you know, I'm sure that's to what you do in, like, the commune and things. So
yeah,
I just
I'm actually writing a blog post about, and it's a repurpose of something that I posted before. It was entitled "The Real Reason That You Hate Showing Up Online," but I rewrote it to talk about myself instead. Instead of, like, pointing the finger, because, you know, pointing the finger kind of sucks. And I shared, I was like, this, I know why, because I've literally been there, done that, got the t-shirts, developed a way to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, I know what I'm talking about because I've lived through that shit. I'm not, and I mean, not every experience is like universal. So there are some things that I would not have experienced or built a system for, but what I'm talking about and how I can help you, I've been there. I've done it. I've experienced it. It has sucked. I have created systems that some work, some don't work, and I know exactly what we can try to help you right now. I'm not talking out of my ass. Personal experience. And then I think when I speak so vulnerably as well, people see that they can relate to me and also be vulnerable themselves. So not just with me, but with themselves, and realize that, okay, it sucks, and people are fangirling over me now. It is insane. I would not have believed this before. So people are actually looking up to me, and I'm like, ah, crazy. So these people are looking up to me, right? And like, Suchan is so put together. She's so funny. She's so smart. She's so this. She's so that. This is where I was. I was where you were, like 5 years ago. So if you think I'm hot shit right now, imagine what you would look like in 3 years, because I had to figure it out myself. I'm helping you figure it out. So you're going to get to where I am in a shorter space of time. Imagine where you're going to be in like 2-3 years. You know?
It is really that I hear you saying like that leading by example, where you're like, if I'm inviting folks to be vulnerable, then I have to do that too. And because you touched on that some folks have were asking about like, how do you show up online? And you've really had that experience of doing that more vulnerably. And I hear you saying like, it's turned out that people really resonate.
Yeah. I swear my most popular posts are not even Notion related. They are like mental health related, and like my personal blog posts, and even like my personal threads. They're like, no one wants to people do want to hear me talk about Notion. Like, people do associate me with Notion, but they associate me with more than that. And I just haven't found a way to distill it yet.
It's powerful though to talk about mental health, because I feel like, it's getting a little more, a part of the culture, but like it's still stigmatized in a lot of ways. And I feel like it's so important for people to be willing and able to like talk about mental health and be able to, and it's really like leading the way, I feel, in a really powerful way.
Yeah, I mean, I live in a very Catholic, sort of conservative country. So, like, going to the therapist is for mad people. So, like, crazy people go to the therapist. Like, so when something is wrong, you just have to, like, pray it away and ask God. And I'm like, girl, that man in the sky, if he is there, he is not listening to me. So, for me, growing up talking about mental health and living in a family where there were several of us who were not well mentally, and not being able to share or be honest, that stuff is just kind of like snuck under the rug, and just like, hey, like, just give them a pass. Just like, don't be too loud. Again, make yourself small so that you don't get hurt, so that, they don't see you as a target, so, you can stay out of their way. For me now, growing up, being an adult, I just want to talk about it now. Like, I just want to talk about it. I want to not necessarily demystify, but just like be honest about what it really looks like to people to be to have mental health struggles, to have mental health challenges, and just the whole self-care thing isn't, yes, like, self-care helps, sometimes you're having a bad brain day and you didn't drink water. Like, yes, drinking water does help, maybe a little bubble bath will feel nice, but again, doesn't really touch on the underlying reason of why are you here. Why is this way? What else can you do to like really support yourself and help yourself, and not in just this kind of like aesthetic Instagram friendly way, you know what I mean? It's like the way I do self-care is very boring. I literally have on my schedule horizontal time at 2 p.m. to 3. I'm literally just gonna turn out the lights, take off my clothes, and lay under the covers and watch TikTok for an hour. Like, it's not pretty, it's not aesthetic, but it helps, So I talk about these things because it's not always pretty. it's not always comfortable. It's not always, you know, butterflies and puppies and rainbows. But it is valuable to talk about and to share so that you don't feel alone and that you can get the support that you need. Because if I didn't say anything to my family, I would not have gone to the psychiatric hospital. I would not have been able to get the support that I needed. I don't know. I literally don't know where I would have been right now. I right now I see a future for myself, and at that point I did not see a future for myself. I could envision what the next day could be like, far less the next week, month, year. So for me, it is definitely important to be vulnerable and share my story so that other people can feel not alone. My clients, my audience can feel like, okay, Sujan got through this. I can get through this. And then start to get that curiosity, okay, how can I get through this? There's a way to get out of this, clearly. There's some way. I just haven't found it yet. I can find it. You know?
As you were describing that, because when you first talked about the curiosity that really asks why, I started visualized it as this thing that spreads out and you see all these possibilities. But as you were describing it here too, I also saw how it can allow you to go really deep. And
Yes.
it's so important, like be able to, I don't know, just like you were saying, like help people feel not alone. Help people know there's possibility, even in like the dark moments. And
It
coming
may
from
not feel like that, but it's there. And again, I can say this because I've been there.
yeah, exactly, like extra powerful.
Yeah, I can
Just
say this because I've been there. So
yeah, yeah. I'm so excited for what you're doing and like who you are and how you bring yourself to this work. And I know we're coming close to your horizontal time, so I don't want to
yes.
for that. But like, I just really, really invite people, anyone who listens to this, like, go follow Sujan on all the things, and engage with their work. Like, this is very, very important. And I feel like it'd be just so helpful. So, since we usually ask people at the end, I'll have all your links in the description. But like, where can people find you?
I'm on Threads. And that's where I kind of live right now because I love the app and it's very much, easy for me to do that there. I'm also on Instagram because I have these threads. I have a blog on Substack, so that's more of my long form content. I have some other places. I have like Pinterest, LinkedIn. If you find me on LinkedIn, you can, follow me on LinkedIn. I don't be posted there very much, but follow me on LinkedIn too. I have Tumblr, I have Twitter, and I think that's it. So Threads, Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter. I have a YouTube channel too, but I haven't posted on there in a while. I have a YouTube channel too.
And then also, your website is basically yourname.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Noreiga.com. Yes, I'm there. You can join the commune from my website. You can order a custom Notion build from me from my website. You can go to my blog from my website. I also have a few Notion templates and resources that I have there. I'm also working on a workbook to help you make your Notion space aesthetic. So that will also be up on the website, and all my contact information and everything is there as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. I really hope that folks connect with you, and I'm excited because I'm connecting with you online. Everything heads and like your journey going forward.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, and thank you for inviting me again.